This podcast is sponsored by Cube Gallery, a progressive art space in Cebu, Philippines, providing network and exhibit opportunities for contemporary artists with whom they work closely with and promote beyond the local reach. Upcoming in Cube Gallery, Mundane Rituals by Kidlat. From August 23 to September 22, Kidlat's gonna have a solo show. I recently interviewed Kidlat. Going to be coming out in a few weeks. I'm going to make sure it comes out before August 23. And he was a really cool person to talk to. I visited his studio. I looked at some of the works. I'm excited to see it on the walls of Cube Gallery. Save the date for the opening reception of Kidlat's Mundane Rituals on August 23, 6 p.m. at Cube Gallery. Aside from its physical space in Crossroads, Banilad, Cebu City, you can check out Cube Gallery's online collection on artsy.net/cube-gallery. Link in the show notes. This podcast is brought to you by Handurao. Over the years, Handurao has been a pillar of the local music scene. They're a big help to the culture of Cebu. And that much is clear with the many musicians and artists and even gig organizers that we've talked to. Handurao Pizza has simply been a great venue for local music. So if you're looking for a place to chill, a spot that supports local artists and musicians, a place to enjoy delicious homegrown pizza and ice-cold below-zero beer, look no further. Visit Handurao Pizza. They have many branches which you can find listed on their website at handuraopizza.com, or you can have their wonderful pizza delivered to you. Just search for them in GrabFood or on Food Panda. Thank you, Handurao Pizza, for sponsoring the episode. Let's get to the show. Welcome to 032 Conversations, the podcast where we talk to creatives, see how they live, and how they do their work. I'm your host, Carlo Villarica. Yeah, welcome to the show. So the wife and I, we've been, as you may know, we've got 2 kids. We're trying to do this whole no yaya thing, and so far it's been working okay. It's just that every weekend now, we have to have like this little meeting. It's I find it funny because, we're married, but we still have like these little meetings. But we'll have like a meeting and we'll need to discuss our schedule, especially since like our firstborn Manu, started school like a week ago. And now somebody, usually it's my wife, but somebody has to bring him to school and pick him up. And then sometimes there's some scheduling things that need to be done. So every weekend, my wife and I, we sit down and then we go through each work day. Like Monday, what are you doing? Okay. So basically what happens is we sit down, we look at our shared Google Calendar. So my meetings are there. My, you'd be surprised with the amount of things that we have to schedule these days. Like one advantage that my wife and I have is that we don't really have we don't need to time in or time out. So we have flexible schedules. But as I said before, flexible does not necessarily mean easy, it turns out. So every week we talk schedules. Every week we talk schedules. We have a shared Google Calendar. And so I can see her meetings. I can see my meetings. I can see my podcast interview schedules. We even schedule exercise. She's been going to indoor cycling a lot lately. Yeah, she really seems to enjoy it. Kudos to you, Steph, if you are listening. I'm really happy that you're doing that on a regular basis. And then, we have to schedule work, exercise, and of course, the kids. So we have to figure out who picks Manu up on what day and or who hangs out with the kids. So there are days where I'm home the whole day and the kids are home the whole day. And then I have to figure out how to take care of them at the same time, do work. My wife does the same thing. So there are times that she's with them the whole day. Sometimes we'll put them in a play area and then just work in the cafe near the play area. That's happened quite a few times too. So, yeah, I mean, life goes on. We're still doing it. Just, if you have any tips, are there any families listening to this who are going through it here in Cebu? One of the advantages of living, so okay, fine. Here in Cebu, a lot of families have like yayas, right? But more and more, less people have yayas these days. It's kind of difficult to find a good, reliable one. We've had them in the past, and then we made a decision, I don't know, a few weeks ago, a month ago, a few months ago, I can't remember anymore, that we'll try to do this whole thing without a yaya, because having a yaya around is its own set of problems. You have to make sure they know how to take care of the kids. You have to make sure they're teaching the kids the right values. They spend so much time with the kids, so you have to think about these things. And then at the same time, sometimes, this is the nature of what it is. Sometimes they're just not very reliable. They'll tell you that, which has happened to us a few times. Maybe we're just really bad employers. But it has happened to us a few times that, they go on vacation and they just never come back. So having help is basically its own set of problems. So we just figured out maybe we'll try to see what it's like if we do it ourselves. So far, so good. I'm just really tired. I miss my sitting down, not doing anything time. But you know what? It's fine. It's totally okay. I'd like to hear from parents who've been doing that a while. So if you happen to be listening to this episode, if you happen to be raising kids, and if you happen to have no yaya, no help, I'd like to hear about your story. I'd like to, maybe some tips that you have to share. Send us an email at info@032.com. You can make the subject line parenting with no yaya. In this episode of 032 Conversations, I talked to Van Gogh. One of the biggest things that I love about doing this podcast is I learn so much from our guests. And this guest is no exception. In fact, I learned a lot from this guest. I first met Van Gogh there was a shoot that we were doing for Anthill. Anthill invited us over, they had this whole thing. But, so basically we did a shoot. Thank you, Anthill, for doing that. But, and then they got a diverse group of people together for the shoot. It was like a pride shoot. There was a part in the shoot, like before the shoot got going, it was cool because they got everybody in a circle. Not everybody knew each other, and people were introducing themselves. So I introduced myself. My name's Carlo. I do 032, that sort of thing. And then eventually it got to Van Gogh. He said, "My name is Van Gogh. I'm the founder of the Cebu Transman Equality and Awareness Movement." I'll be honest with you, when I first heard him say that, it didn't really register in my brain. I don't even really know what a trans man was. Fortunately, Jude Bacalso was there. Also another really good podcast. You should check out Jude Bacalso's episode after listening to this one. And she didn't let the moment pass. She was like, "Wait, you're a trans man?" And then it opened up this whole conversation. Because as I learned in my conversation with Van he is what you would consider passing. He passes. It basically means that he passes as a regular dude. I had no idea that he was a trans man. He looks like a regular dude to me, and I'm sure that's what he wants. When Jude pointed that out, we had this conversation about LGBT, that whole thing. I thought it would be good to invite Van over for a conversation in the podcast. So, I don't know anything about this. This is not something I am a part of. Not a culture that I've had much experience with. I talked to Van Gogh about what it was like growing up in Cebu, being a trans man in Cebu. He explained the meaning of SOGIE. I believe that's how you pronounce it. SOGIE. We get into it in the podcast. The most common questions he gets about being a trans man, like about testosterone. We got into it a little bit about testosterone or the legal issues that faces the LGBT community. Some rights that they should have, but they currently do not have. If you want to learn more about this community, or if you are listening to this and you are part of this community and you want other people to learn more and to know about it, you can share this episode to them. And now hopefully it opens their eyes a little bit. I mean, it sure opened mine. I learned a lot. Yeah, before we get to that interview with Van Gogh, if this is your first time to listen to 032 Conversations, subscribe to the podcast. We have a new episode every Tuesday. Let's get to that interview with Van Gogh. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was I wanted to learn more about, the LGBT community, the Transmen thing. And then but I also have to acknowledge that I know very little about it to the point I might ask a stupid question.
It's okay. And it's a good thing you're talking to me because I'm really open about it and I'm okay with stupid questions or whatever you call them. As long as I'll be the one to tell you which ones are insulting, which questions are insulting for other trans men, especially those who might be a bit sensitive in with those topics. But with me, it's fine.
Yeah, because so I want to thank you for that because I want to know if I cross a line in terms of what I'm doing. So that's why I realized that it might be a good thing to talk to you because it seemed like when I first saw you in Anthill.
Yeah.
So this is what happened. So when I first met you, they're just there. I knew some of the people there. There's some people I didn't know.
Yeah.
But to me, you were just some other dude.
Yeah.
And then we were doing introductions to everybody. Everybody was doing introductions. My name is, and you were like, yeah, my name's Van Gogh. I'm the founder of Transmen.
Yeah.
And then, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
I went to the person beside me. What did he say? and then Jude was the one she refused to let that moment pass.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, she did react that way.
And then
I remember.
And then it was slowly connecting the dots for me. You get what I'm saying? Okay. And then people were asking you all sorts of questions.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought it would be a really good idea to talk, no? So I don't know where you want to start. You're from Cebu?
Yeah, I'm from Cebu.
So what was it like growing up here?
It was, I guess it's fine. In terms of being a trans guy growing up, I didn't really identify as trans up until I was 18. So right before that, I had, but because the term transgender it's not entirely new, but it's new to a lot of people here in the Philippines, especially here in Cebu, right? So it took me a while to realize that all this time I was trans. I didn't have a proper label to call myself. I never really identified with the word lesbian because the definition of not just to me, but the definition of lesbian is a person who identifies as a woman who is in love or who is attracted to other women. And I never really identified or saw myself as a woman. So that's it. Growing up, it's a good thing though that I didn't really have that much.
Did you know about all these definitions growing up,
no,
before you were 18?
I only had the typical definitions that we knew, like the bio tomboy, the lesbian, gay. That's it. Transgender to me was something. I have to be honest. It was something weird for me at first. Like when I heard about it, I was in denial. Like when I heard about the term trans, I didn't want to. Like when they told me the definition of trans, I was like, it's something I could relate to, but I was in denial at first. I was like, no, that's not me. I tried to live myself as a girl. If it was really for me, but none of it really felt right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
So when you were in high school and like all the way till 18, you didn't know what to identify because this is the thing with me, like with the whole, what I learned from Jude with my conversation with Jude.
Yeah.
Turns out to me, you've known this a long time. Like so many people identify as so many different, there's so many
identities.
And to me, it's confusing. Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
I guess that's to be expected because I'm not in that world.
Yeah.
No. So I can't imagine what it must be like to grow up, especially at that age when you're still figuring out who you are. Just never mind your gender. Just figuring out who you are as a person. Yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And then, in a way, at least for me, I feel like, I'm lucky. I didn't have to figure that part out.
Yeah.
Like the whole, that gender thing. Like I knew.
Yeah,
like, okay, it was very obvious to me.
Yeah.
No? But, so everything else, which was also what I felt complicated, where I was able to go through that without having that first hurdle of, I don't know, gender identity.
Yeah.
No? So how did you first learn about the different, I don't know, identities?
Well, I just want one thing clear though. I always knew that I saw myself as a boy, like growing up. Yeah, even as early as 4 to 5 years old, I saw myself as a boy. I preferred doing things for boys or like more masculine things. But when the people around me, the people I grew up with, kept on telling me that I was a girl. No, you're not. And so that's what made me confused. So it wasn't really like I was trying to find out if I was a girl or a boy. I always knew I was a boy. It's just that it hard that people kept on telling me otherwise, right? So by the time I was 18, that's when I was already really sure that no, it doesn't matter what other people would say. I know this is me. This is who I am. This is how I identify as. And what other people will say doesn't matter anymore. That's when I started identifying as trans. And I was already open about it.
So I watched some of the YouTube videos, and there was that YouTube video that you posted nga katong, I think I'm blanking a little bit, but like you remember the first time you were given boys' clothes, and then you ended up wearing it all the time.
Yeah, like several times. Yeah.
No. And then I remember that sticking out. And we're like, oh, okay, you really, even as a kid, you don't know in general, but people don't know how to say it, but they can feel who they are.
Yeah.
So you were like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
No? And then, was it, I don't know, did people give you a hard time or the reason I ask is, I went to an all boys school.
Okay.
A long time ago. And then I can tell you that there were some gay guys who were given a hard time. No? And then that was back then when like people knew about it, and then like the term bayot was a derogatory term.
Yeah.
And I feel like, looking back, those were mistakes on a lot of our parts.
Yeah.
But and then now that there seems to be now the understanding is better, but I'm sure there's still a lot of work to be done, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
No, but I'm curious how it was for you growing up.
Well, apparently I also went to an all-girls school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the thing with that was I can't really say that I had a hard time. I did have some hard times, but it wasn't really like all the time. It was the difficult times I had was with certain. I think it's safe to say like I had a guidance counselor who forced me to grow out my hair. Like she told me,
Because you wanted to cut your hair.
yeah, I always
Okay,
wanted
yeah,
my
yeah.
hair short, and then apparently she was the one who told me, you should grow your hair, and because I was called out and for disciplinary action
For having short hair?
no, not for having short hair. That was for I don't want to sound too I don't want to sound like I'm boasting, but because then they said that some girls in school had a crush on me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was called out for that, and then I was like, I didn't understand.
So they looked at it. They said, "You have short hair. You're starting to look more like a guy."
Something like that, yeah. So if I were you, you should grow out your hair. And I'm like, I was a kid. I didn't know if it was okay for them to tell me that, or if it was not okay for them to tell me that. But yeah, I was told that, and then so the whole time I spent my third year, fourth year trying to be as girly as I can.
So you're trying to conform to other people's opinions na noon.
And also growing up, I had to my family would never buy me boys' clothes. It was my aunt that I mentioned in my video, but my aunt doesn't live with us. She lives out of the country. So anyway, so yeah, in high school, I started just using my allowance or saving my allowance to buy my own clothes, since I don't really get the clothes that I prefer to wear. That's when I started wearing boys' clothes already, as early as high school. And then, yeah, growing up, I wouldn't say I was already accepted, like who I was accepted. It's just that they tolerated who I am, but they didn't accept me, but they tolerated who I was, and who I am. So
Which we're hoping to get through tolerance and really acceptance, diba?
And understanding.
And understanding.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Mona, for me, the whole reason why I wanted to talk to you is a little bit for understanding also, because again, like I said, I don't know anything about it, right? So, like I think we were sending out messages to each other, and then I asked you, one of the questions was like, one of the things that, what are one of the things you would like to talk about? Then you mentioned this kanang, SOGIE. SOGIE? How do you pronounce it? SOGIE?
SOGIE.
SOGIE.
Yeah.
So it's an acronym?
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. SOGIE stands for Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity, and Expression. So, because the one that's really common for other people to know is just gender or sex, which is really, you can't really say someone's gender is this and that because it's very binary.
You mean in terms of transition?
No, like in general, gender cannot be defined as one thing, because when you ask someone, what's your gender? They say male or female. It's just binary. But when you say, the term SOGIE is much more accurate for me, because I'm just gonna give you the meaning of each term first. Sexual orientation means who you're attracted to. So, for example, examples of sexual orientation is straight, gay, or lesbian.
Okay.
Those are sexual orientations. Like straight meaning you're attracted to the opposite sex, or gay meaning the man who's attracted to a man, or lesbian, a girl who's attracted to a girl. That's it. Gender identity is how you see yourself as. So, obviously, clearly, you see yourself as a guy, right?
Me? You're asking me? Yes.
Yeah, right? So, that's your gender identity.
Yeah.
My gender identity is the same. I see myself as a man. as a guy. So, as you can see, sexual orientation and gender identity are different, right? So, gender identity is just you, like, regardless of who you like or what. Sexual orientation that's when you talk about who you are attracted to. Yeah.
Okay.
And then expression or gender expression is your mannerisms, the way you talk, the way you act, the way you dress. So there's either masculine or feminine or androgynous. So you cannot really say that a person's gender expression defines their gender or their gender identity, because I know a lot of guys who are not really masculine enough. They also have feminine sides with them, right? Also, there are girls who are a bit masculine. They're not fully feminine, but that doesn't mean that they identify as a man, right?
And it could also mean, it could also mean that, like, let's say a woman who dresses like a man, but could still like men,
yeah,
and still identify as a woman.
As a woman, yeah, exactly. So gender expression does not define your identity. So it's really, you can either be masculine, androgynous, or feminine, but it doesn't mean you're one thing.
That's interesting. Okay, one of the things that kanamurag that confuses me is all of these definitions.
Yeah, the different labels of people. Yeah.
So like si Jude mentioned to me, like LGBTQIA plus, and then this is literally probably the first time I've ever said those acronyms all at once. And then it seemed really, and even Jude kanang admitted nga, it's confusing even for her.
Yeah.
And then, but this whole SOGIE, in a way, kind of, well,
it makes it easier to understand.
It clarifies a little bit, yes.
Yeah, right? So that's actually one of the things that helped me identify my identity. Because I was like, how come I've always seen myself as because I grew up, I actually have a lot of butch lesbian friends. So when you say butch, meaning they're lesbians, but they're more masculine, like they dress masculinely, like that. So,
but there's no I don't know, like surgeries, no.
No, just lesbian, because they still identify as women. It's just that they act masculinely. And then all this time they also thought I was like them, but I don't see myself as a girl, right? So that's the whole thing that made me wonder, why is it that they still see themselves as girls, but I never saw myself as that. But we do both like women, right? So that's when I started searching, and when I came across SOGIE, that's what made things a lot more clear to me. Like, oh, so it's really different. Like, it doesn't matter how you see yourself. Your sexual orientation is different. Like,
that clears up a lot. I mean, I guess I'm sure somebody can write it all down in a piece of paper. Okay, like all the different combinations, and probably come up with like a name for each, no? But in a way, it kind of clears up a lot of confusion on my on a what am I called, like
cisgender?
A cisgender.
Yes. Yeah.
That's another thing I learned in that shoot.
Yeah, cisgender.
Yeah, so to somebody like me who has no idea, it kind of does clear up a lot of things. No, because like, one of the things that when kami Jude were talking was that these are like, it's so weird nga. We have a lot of interactions with all sorts of people.
Yeah.
But we don't, like, for me, for instance, like, I have friends who are gay and then, or lesbian. And then it took me the longest time to have this conversation with them, because like, I'm afraid I might accidentally offend them, or like, in fact, in the beginning of this conversation, I started it already with in a way, an apology.
Yeah. But that's good. You do that.
Yeah, but at the same time, the fear to offend somebody stops a lot of these conversations. No?
Yeah.
And then, well, that's why I wanted to have you here. So for somebody like you, like a trans man, like a trans man, are there a difference, like trans women, trans man, like trans women is like
those who identify as women and have
who are
assigned male at birth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're much better with the words than I am.
It's
I was
okay.
like, oh no, I'm gonna say something.
It's okay. I use them all the time already, so.
So
Yeah.
so for the trans people in general, is there like a transition? I guess that's what trans means. Like a big part of it is the physical transition, correct?
Yeah. And medical transition.
And medical transition. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, right now.
In general, yeah.
When you say medical transition, it refers to hormones and surgery. So anything that you do to align your body with your mind is medical transition. So, for example, if someone who was assigned male at birth wants to medically transition to female, it means that they would either, or it's not both, it's just and or, they would take hormones or have surgery to align their body to be female with their mind who identifies as female. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, so
so anything medical is what you call medical transition. Because physical can mean just clothes, working out, to get muscle, or to lose weight for trans women, to get a more feminine, curvy look or something. So that's just physical. It doesn't require any medical procedures or whatever.
What kind of medical procedures are there?
For trans men, there's
sure.
There are several types. There are several medical procedures, actually. I just want to say, though, that I'm not exactly an expert at this topic, but I do know we do classify them as either top or bottom surgery. So, top meaning your chest.
Half of the body?
Yeah, upper top.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what does that mean?
It's not top or bottom for gay men. But yeah, top surgery refers to anything you do with your chest. Usually it's taking off or how do you call this? Something that does not trigger their, basically, just taking their breast off or something. Yeah, that's top surgery. Any form of surgery to give them a more masculine chest or something. It depends on how
one that's top.
Yeah.
And then bottom
bottom surgery can either be there's phalloplasty, meaning like, you know what plasty means? I think I'm from the medical field, but sometimes I don't really.
You're so used now to the terms, but that you already know what it means.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to explain to a regular person.
Plasty means adding something. Plasty, and then phallo meaning phallus. So basically,
I'm blank. I don't know what like an appendage or something.
Anyway, I'll talk about another bottom surgery. One kind of bottom surgery is hysterectomy. It means taking off. I'm not sure which ones, but I think it's the uterus or ovaries. But some internal reproductive organs of the female is taken off. Usually, once again, I'm not an expert at this.
So, like
topic,
for example, like kind of like the ovaries.
So they take that off because the ovaries also produce estrogen, Mungod.
Okay.
Yeah. So, or also others they.
So is estrogen like the
female hormone?
Yeah. So that's the thing that makes I don't know, like
Female
what we would typically think of as female
secondary
body parts.
characteristics like fair skin, sometimes also moodiness.
Moodiness.
Yeah. And
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, female secondary sex characteristics.
So the male version of that would be testosterone.
Yeah.
So there are ways for not like kanang, I don't know, like I think like people sometimes like in sports like that they consider that's like a steroid, like a testosterone.
Testosterone is a anabolic steroid, but it's not the only kind of steroid there is. There are different kinds of steroids. There are steroids that would give you bulk mass, I think, and then there's also steroids that would get you ripped, and then there's also steroids that would increase your testosterone levels.
Is that something that testosterone in general, is that something that trans men tend to use?
Yes, that's exactly what we use, the testosterone. Okay. Yeah.
Is that like a requirement?
No, it's not a requirement, but it's a lot. It's the one that's being used by a lot of trans men.
So how does that I don't know. This may or may not make the podcast. Is that legal?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm good.
Well, actually, no, it's okay. Actually, testosterone is even prescribed to older men. Whose testosterone levels are already decreasing, because as you get older, your body also doesn't produce enough. So there's a normal range for male. Actually, both male and female have both testosterone and estrogen levels. It's just that for males, they have more testosterone and lesser estrogen. And then for females, they have more estrogen than lesser testosterone levels. So anyway, it comes to a point where so there's a normal range for male testosterone level. So, and because I'm constantly being asked this, like there are a lot of cisgender male guys who send me a message and ask me if they inject testosterone, will they grow a beard? Or if they inject testosterone, will they get more masculine or something? Because I do believe there are some cisgender men who are do not have that much masculine features, and I think they're worried about it. But yeah, there's actually, to answer that question, there's a certain range for a male that's normal, and then there's a high level and then low. So it's not necessarily injecting testosterone is not necessarily the solution for that, because it could be that your testosterone levels are too high, and once your testosterone levels are too high, your body will send a signal to add more estrogen just to level up, or I think the testosterone levels
it out or something
will get either converted to estrogen. So that could be a factor. So injecting more testosterone with it is only gonna make it worse.
Wait, so now I have to ask. So like, what happens if you go over the normal testosterone?
So you will get, the side effects I would know is you would there's a possibility that you would have fat deposits in your chest.
Really?
Yeah, so that's you'd get
too much testosterone in one. Really?
Yeah, or you'd get fat deposits usually. Like those guys I know who went on steroids and didn't really have their dose monitored. They did get man boobs, and then they have
no
fat
way,
deposits,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really, it has to be monitored. It's not just like, oh, we need testosterone. I think my body needs it. You actually need to have it checked if it's the normal range or not.
Yeah, because I think I can't remember. There was another. I think he mentioned testosterone. Like, see, I had another interview with his name's Christian Lim, and he's a triathlete.
Yeah,
and he was like, he's anti-doping. Of course, like, he's a triathlete, so he doesn't think there's any like doping in sport, like kanang steroids. He's like, what are they doping in triathletes? He's like, I think he said testosterone.
Okay.
So you'll notice though, like you'll have people who are slow and all of a sudden they're fast. But like a couple of months later, maybe wala na train, because they did it. I guess in sport, it's considered like a shortcut. So they're not training anymore.
Yeah.
So then they become like fat.
Yeah, because estrogen promotes, from what I know, I could be wrong. I'm just going to say this. Testosterone promotes muscle building, and then estrogen promotes fat building. That's why it's most. Is it off or
no? It's on.
Okay.
It's on.
That's why, like for females, it's easier for them to gain fat than muscle, or they do gain fat more than muscle. Because estrogen helps increase the lipids in your body. So yeah. So anyway, for those, it could be that if they took way too much testosterone, it was already way beyond their normal range.
No,
and that's when they
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Like guys will ask you.
Yeah, there are actually. I get emails and private messages like on Facebook and my other social media accounts.
Really?
Yeah, they did. And I usually do tell them to have their range checked first, and then and other than that, I do give them a referral of where they can probably purchase or whatever. But I always tell them that it's much better if you have it checked by an endocrinologist.
So testosterone shot is literally like it's injected.
The one I do have is intramuscular, so it's intramuscular injection. There are different,
like with a needle and
yeah.
Okay, wow.
There are different forms. There's oral, there's the cream, and there's injections. The cheapest one and safest one. Well, the safest one is the cream, but I don't want to use that because there's a possibility though that whoever you would, like if you're exposed to, like if, for example, you have a partner and then you apply the testosterone cream, it could be transferred to.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because it's on your skin.
Yeah, so you might be shocked that your partner already grew a beard or something. So, but yeah, that happens. But the intramuscular form has lesser liver toxicity compared to the oral one because the oral has really high liver toxicity and because it goes through your liver first. The intramuscular is injected directly to your muscle. So
that's more it bypasses the liver.
Yeah.
But that's probably also the easiest way to make it too high if you're not careful, probably.
It's also a fairly okay amount of having your levels being adjusted to your normal range, because oral also it's expensive. It hurts your liver, and then you would need a lot in a day. Like I think 3 pills. In a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the intramuscular is it's usually, I'm not saying all the time. It's usually applied every 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And there's a certain kind that can just be applied every 3 months, but it's much more expensive. Okay. Yeah, and then the cream is applied daily. That's it. I don't think we have the cream here available in the Philippines.
Yeah, I think the cream sounds sketchy to me. Like, when you said that your partner might get it, oh yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't have anyone. But a lot of pharmaceutical companies are developing plenty of cream medicine because it's really the safest one. Like
really?
Different kinds, yeah. Anything that's topical and everything, they're trying to produce more like that. But it's much more advanced. That's why it's not here in the Philippines. It's usually, I think.
Yeah, okay. So Van, one of the things that is interesting said to me is that okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, huh?
Yeah.
So I was talking to Jude.
Yeah.
A lot of my knowledge is really from
From
my
Jude.
conversation with you. But
It's okay.
I was talking to Jude, and then she mentioned that generally, so like if you're gay,
Mm.
kanang the gays tend to be much more I don't know what the word is, like extravagant, like they share flamboyant, yes,
Yeah.
right, and then like so the information is literally out there. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mm.
It's like, oh yeah, they'll do like referrals. Oh, you go to this doctor, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then it seems like in general,
Mm.
the trans men tend to be less flamboyant. Number one,
Mm.
but also okay, like less, and then like they'd rather not announce it, ba? No,
Mm.
but yet, dog in the back. But yet,
Yeah.
you felt compelled to also start that the
We need more visibility.
the Transman equality and awareness movement,
Yeah.
no, in
Mhm.
Cebu,
Mm-hmm.
no, and in fact, you also shared your journey on. You mentioned it earlier on your YouTube account,
Yeah.
diba?
Mm-hmm.
So, what compelled you to do that?
First and foremost, it was because when I first identified as trans, I had a I had a really hard time looking for other trans men. So that was the turning point for me. Like, someone has to at least educate people about it, because chances are there are plenty more like me, like who don't have no idea what to do, have no idea how they identify us, or have no idea who to go to. So that's what actually compelled me to do so. Like, my personal experience of that.
Yeah, and then at least that video that I saw, like I'm sure like it's been viewed like 100,000 times or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like one there. Yeah, like there's clearly people there who need
Yeah.
this information,
Mm.
no? And then what are the usual questions from people?
Those who identify as trans, or those who don't,
Good question.
right? Because they have different kinds of questions.
Let's start with those who identify as trans.
The very common question they would ask me is where to get testosterone.
Okay, so like they kind of know na what needs to be done, or
That's what scares me, though, because what if they ask that, but they actually don't know what are the effects, the side effects, or everything that comes with it. So I don't really answer right away. I do talk to them first, but it's not that I don't tell them where to get. I do tell them in the end, and I do guide them what's the safe way, what the safe way is, or what's more recommended to be done.
what to look out for in terms of dosage.
In terms of dosage, I do just tell them, just refer to your doctor for the dosage.
Okay,
That's already the doctor's job.
Like what to look out for, like what happens if you go over things that they should look at, like what I guess what
If
the range is, ana.
If they do ask me that, yeah, I do tell them that. But if they don't, then no. But yeah, the most common thing they ask me is where to get testosterone. Other than that, others also ask me where they can join a support group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then, because they really do like to have a group who understands them, or has the same experience as them, or someone they could relate to. And then other questions are how to be trans, which is a very wrong question because
Literally people ask how to be trans.
Yeah, like, you don't become trans. Trans is an identity. Like, you don't become one. You identify as trans, but you don't turn from lesbian to trans. It's not. I'm not sure if you already know, but lesbian and trans men are two different. I've mentioned this several times already, but because we are constantly said that trans men are higher levels of lesbian,
Which
lesbian.
is
So
it's not. They're
it's
just totally different.
yeah, different categories, right? Same way with gay men and trans women. Trans women are not gay men. Uh, So yeah,
Yeah, because so like you can identify as a trans person,
yeah,
but because generally, like I guess a regular person, they will say, "Oh, trans na siya because she has had something done."
yeah,
But you can identify as trans even though you've had nothing.
yeah. Surgery or
Oh,
hormones or not, you can identify as trans.
yeah. Yeah, because I know, like, I have friends who are gay, lesbian, and then they did have not done anything
Yeah,
to themselves,
yeah,
no? And then they have no compulsion to do so, diba?
yeah, exactly. Okay, so it's really different. You're not same category or because like I said, I started identifying as trans as early as 18, but I've started my medical transition when I was 22. So that's four 4 years after, yeah. So even without hormones or anything, I did have my hair cut short already. I wore men's clothes, but I identified as trans. Yeah.
So talk to me about these like support groups. So like so is the in a way is the Transman Equality and Awareness Movement a support group also?
It
Or
started as a support group actually.
yeah? Like 4 or 5 rumukubok
It
and
was
then
just, but it wasn't like Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. It's just we met once every month to talk about our experiences or whatever, and then it grew and grew up until like in the first year. I'm not sure how many we became, but yeah, it became a monthly thing that we should meet once a month at least and have different kinds of activities. So sometimes we just meet up, have milk tea, or sometimes we drink. Sometimes also we have sports, like we play basketball or something. And sometimes we also have trivia night or game night. So yeah, it's just
it's
anything.
really just an opportunity to get
meet
together.
Yeah, it's just to get together.
I'm curious. So what are like the like being? I know I skimmed through like your YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and then like some of the smallest things are things that I take for granted.
Yeah.
Are in a way an issue. So like, so for example, I think there was something on your YouTube about like filling up a form or ID or
legality issues.
yeah. And then I don't know, like can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, since I'm actually passing means like people don't see you as trans. Like when I pass on publicly, like no one identifies me as trans.
Yeah.
But it's only when it comes to dealing with my legal documents that I have issues. But lately, because I made that video like last year, but lately I haven't had issues. But maybe anyway. So yeah, it's usually with the government who are not exposed to trans men. Like once they see my name, they ask where that person is, and then I'm like, oh, that's me, and then they give me this look like they're confused or they don't believe me or something. So I do tell them, I openly say that, oh, I'm a trans man, and then I'm gonna talk about the worst experiences, the worst experience I had.
Sure.
I was trying to get my cedula. Yeah, so I filled my form up and then and then I was already paying. And then as I went to the cashier, she asked me where that person was, and then I said I'm a trans man, and then she was like, what? And then I'm like, yes, that's me. I am a trans man. And then she was like, she literally announced it to the rest of the cashiers, and then she was like, look, there's a trans man, and I'm like, oh.
In public, like,
yeah, in public, yeah, and then I was shocked. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, okay, and then yeah. So and then the funny thing was the other cashiers or the other counters went towards her counter to also to talk to me, and then they left. So they left their
Their
tables.
posts.
Yeah, their posts, and I'm like, oh my god, what the heck? So yeah, they were asking me all these questions, like, what was, but I'm not saying all of them were bad, but there was one person actually who said, no, "Forgive us, because it's our first time to encounter this." So that was fine. Yeah, and like, yeah, it's fine. Um, I also let that go because I knew that was their first time to. I mean, that's when they told me that was their first time to encounter Transman. But anyway, yeah, they asked me what a Transman is, or if I've had surgery, or what. Yeah, all these. I don't know. I don't remember all their questions.
It was a weird place to have that conversation.
Yeah, because it was public and there were a lot of people standing also behind me. And yeah, I'm really okay with answering questions and educating people, but you know,
time and place.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for it.
Yeah, so I mean, not everyone, like especially cisgender people, they don't have to face that. They don't have to explain who they are. They don't have to explain their name. So yeah, that was the worst experience I had, I guess. And one thing though that was also insulting was they said, oh no, it wasn't insulting, but they said, so just to explain what a trans man is there someone on the media though who is the same as me, so that they could understand? So they needed someone on the media, like a celebrity or something, to explain it. So, and then one person said, "Oh, so you're like Jake Cyrus." So I was like, "Yeah, actually, I am. Jake identifies as trans now." And then they were like, "Oh, okay." So that's when it hit me that it really is actually important to have like representatives on the media, or like at least more trans men on the media, because people actually uh, look look at those as references, which is just funny though. But
I'll be honest. Like what's his Jake Cyrus?
Jake, yeah.
So this is how out of it I was. Like I had no idea who Jake Cyrus was.
Oh, okay.
And then I think there was I think there was a post ng murag Jake Cyrus is the only one with a star on some
on Disney. Was that
or I forgot what it was.
Yeah,
or something.
Like that. Yeah.
I guess in Manila or something. And then it was he has 2 stars. So the first star is Charis.
Yeah.
Pempeng. What's
yeah,
it?
Charis Pempenko.
Charis Pempenko. And then Jake Cyrus. And then I realized, okay, like that's the same person.
You didn't know.
I had no idea.
Mm.
No, so yeah, you're right. I guess that is important to just have people out there who can unknowingly represent.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, in a way, at least they were open to learning.
Yeah, that's the good thing though, that it was fine. It was really okay with me. It's just
yeah, because not everybody, the sad thing with the Philippines right now is that the LGBT is a really huge part of the Philippines, of like of so many communities, no? But then not everybody approves of that lifestyle. And then katong which like, so diba, so we met in that Anthill thing, so we had our own little chat group, and then you shared that link to that katong Congress.
The yes or no.
Yeah, the yes and no. It was really weirdly worded pag yun katong, are you for same-sex marriage?
Yeah.
Yes. And then there's a reasoning, which was really weird. Like, you don't need to put a reasoning anymore. Right. And it was yes, because they deserve the same rights as everybody. And no, because of the church, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then I remember clicking on that and then being surprised because it was basically 50-50 at that point. I don't know when it ended, what the percentages were, no? But I remember, so that's where I first saw it. And then I remember like later on, like we'll get like a text blast.
Yeah.
Kanang murag, oh, fellow Christians,
You got one?
huh?
Uh,
Not
after that?
me.
Oh, okay.
Not me personally.
Yeah.
Without outing anybody.
Yeah, it's
but
okay.
I know that there were text blasts
From the church.
from yeah, well, it's unfair to say from the church,
Yeah.
but from people who were opposed to the idea,
okay.
no?
Yeah.
And then
After that, after that votation thing, like
yeah, no, because of the votation. No, so they were hoping to turn the tide. Like I think, kanang murag, they're leading by 1 or 2%.
okay.
We need to vote some more.
Okay.
No? But basically the total opposite of your message.
Okay.
Which was, you wanted to share it because equal rights, the whole thing. No? And then, in a way, the nice thing with this poll is that I'm sure amongst a few people, it sparked a conversation. Why don't we have same-sex marriage? No, which is just one of the few issues concerning the LGBT community.
That's true.
Diba? Do you know how that poll ended? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Actually, right after that poll, I realized that that poll was useless because it was already too late. That poll was for the current that certain, because we already have new senators, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was for those senators before the new senators. So it was already too late. So it was funny that they made that because the term was ending.
No, but I think what happened like is that number one, it was very badly
worded.
Marketed because
also it was, from what I know, I'm not sure how true this is. It was only very few people from our community knew about it, and then someone found out. It started with just 2% for yes, and then everything else was no. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's when the people from our community started spreading it out because a lot of people didn't know about it, and then that's how they raised the votes because no one knew about it at first. Yeah, it was made. I don't know. Maybe
no, but they kay pag-market that particular, like they just put it on the Congress website.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was in the middle of everything.
Yeah, you have to
scroll down to look
for it. Yeah.
Pero I think in a way it kind of sparked this little conversation and kinda like why? And then I was talking to Jude nga it's something that kami the straight people take for granted nga if we have properties together, or if my wife gets sick, I am automatically family, thus able to...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and then these rights are not offered to everybody.
That's true. Yeah. That's exactly what we're just after. We're not after the whole wedding thing, like the whole... we're after the rights for same-sex marriage. That's what those who are opposed to it actually don't understand, or they don't know that that's just what we're after. We're not after insulting anyone or offending anyone with their culture. It's just that we want people to know that we also do deserve these rights. Yeah.
I'm not familiar, but would you know if anybody, quote unquote, in power is championing
for the same-sex marriage?
Yeah, or for that community in general. But maybe more importantly, the same-sex marriage, no?
I'm not sure about the same-sex marriage because what we're pushing for is the anti-discrimination bill first, which is the SOGIE bill. Because we actually don't have a law protecting us from discrimination. So it has to start with that first.
Okay.
Yeah, because...
What is the SOGIE?
SOGIE bill means you cannot... this is just the gist of it. It's not entirely what it's for. But basically, you're not allowed to discriminate people based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression anymore. So it also covers cisgender people because you also have SOGIE. I have SOGIE. Everyone has SOGIE. And then the funny thing is, a certain senator thinks that only LGBT people have SOGIE. So, so the senator said, no, that's for you. That's biased or something. Which is like...
It's a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
So
the one championing for that, I think, is Risa Hontiveros right now. Yeah. She's the one who's really commonly seen pushing for the SOGIE bill. Yeah.
You don't know what the update is on that. I remember seeing something today about recent. I think I'm not sure. About Maria Nomorg, it was about catcalling. I don't know, or I think it was something different. Yeah,
could be too. Yeah, she's championing on a lot of issues. But yeah, that's one of the bills that she's pushing for. Well, not just her, like the whole team. I'm not sure. I don't know all of their names.
Yeah. Yeah, because so I remember like actually one of my so when I was much younger, so I remember like after college, at the time I did not think much about it except for like how it affected me.
Yeah.
Like because na culture shock ko in a way. But after college, I went to Madrid in Spain. And then basically I spent a year there. But like within like my first week there or something, I think Spain announced legalization of same-sex marriage. No? And then so I was there and then in Madrid, and then like my friends who were there already were like, "Hey, we're going to this party." No, because Spain announced that it's legal. So there's this big street party, and and in Spain there was I'm assuming it still is the same area called Choica. I think it's called Choica, and it was like the gay area of Spain.
Yeah.
And there's a big party there. And I was like, oh, great. Oh, same-sex marriage. Great. You know, like no real understanding of what that meant to people. And then we went there. I went in and like, you know, as soon as we got out of the train, it was like sinulog. Kanang, but you know, like, but people.
The street party kind of.
Super sinulog. Street party.
Yeah.
People like, well, they're drinking, getting drunk, but like, they were in celebration of the
legality,
the legality of same-sex marriage. And for me at the time, I didn't think anything about it. I just thought, oh, they're like this here, and then this is weird, like, you know, lots of gay guys. And then, you know, I was uncomfortable in a way that a straight person is uncomfortable with. There's like a lot of gay people because you know they don't understand them. But in retrospect now, I have like in a way,
you realize
an appreciation of that moment.
Yeah.
No?
How much it made people happy.
Yeah. And then Kato recently said there's a what was it? Pride Day? Pride
March?
Pride moment. Like there's I don't know what it's called, Magod.
The one in Mandaue or
I think it was the one in Mandaue but I think the one in Mandaue coincided with a worldwide.
What do you mean? Like the Pride Month for June?
Pride Month for June because so when that happened in Mandaue, I was in San Francisco.
Okay.
And then in San Francisco on that, I guess on that Sunday, I can't remember what day it was exactly. Was the Pride Parade?
So you were there. You saw the Pride Parade in San Francisco?
Yeah, I saw the Pride Parade in San Francisco.
San Francisco is really cool.
It was really cool, actually. A lot of too much penises for my taste.
You saw. Okay.
No, pero but it was really cool, and one of the things that I remember seeing, like, of course, people wearing like kanang colorful the pride flag, and then I mean, I'll be honest, for me the highlights were, you know, topless women just walking around.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but there was this one moment when it was super crowded and we were walking through the parade. Kind of like it's like sinulog ba? Shoulder to shoulder, ana.
yeah.
And then there's just one line going one direction, the other line going another direction. The one going the other direction is like a lot of people, diba? And yeah, at some point there were these two really old guys.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and yeah, one of them was in a wheelchair.
Oh,
And then the other one was kanang also looked equally old.
Yeah. Was
Pushing the guy in the wheelchair. And then they had like kanang enamel,
Rainbow,
rainbow pins, anana. And then can't imagine what they went through.
yeah, like all those years that was not accepted yet.
Yeah, and then now they got to see this ba. And then, it in a way, it kind of sucks that still here in the Philippines, we're basically
Really backwards.
backwards
So,
pa
behind, yeah.
and behind. But hopefully,
Yeah. Hopefully. It's a good thing we have people like you also, like featuring
well,
cisgender people actually giving visibility to LGBTQ plus.
you took the words out of my mouth. It's a good thing you're around, okay, to educate people like me,
Yeah.
no? And, because it really is, what's this? It really needs to be talked about at the very least.
Yeah.
No? Because if you talk about it and then you realize on the straight people, quote unquote, straight people side, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's true. Like the same sex marriage, there's really nothing to lose. So it's funny how it's still not approved here or allowed here. So hopefully it will be soon.
Yeah, where can people learn about like if they wanna learn a little bit more about
the bill or the like SOGIE? Because
well, I was gonna say like I was gonna say LGBT community,
okay.
but then it's so, as you said, as I was saying it, it's like it's so broad.
It is.
No? But let's say like the Transmen.
I do have a website though that I would really recommend if you want to learn more about not just LGBT but the SOGIE in general. The website is it's pronounced metrosexual.com. It's
I'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. So that's where I actually learned about SOGIE. Sam Killerman is the author. He's a author of a book, and then that's the book. That's a book that I read. It was from the website, and then he's just giving the ebook away for free. It's up to you if you donate whatever amount. But yeah, basically, he has this infographic called the genderbread person, and then it's like a gingerbread man who has illustrations from the mind. The mind refers to the gender identity, and then the heart refers to sexual orientation, and then the genitals refer to biological sex or the sex that was assigned to you at birth, and then the whole body was referred to gender expression. And then each and every word he gave out the meaning and definition, and then different kinds of so the genderbread
man. Or
genderbread person. Yeah. So he didn't say man because
it makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah. I like his infographics. It's simple and it's also really.
See, I'll link to that in the show notes. I will look for the genderbread person as well.
Sure.
So we've been talking for about an hour. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think we talked about a lot of things already.
Sige,
what else? No, is there anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. I think we can keep talking, man, good, no? So I don't want to take too much of your time also. And then, it's also good to keep it within an hour.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, where can people find you online if you want to be found?
Well, my Facebook account, I don't really accept a lot.
Oh, yeah,
and
your public
everyone.
accounts.
Yeah, my public accounts is well. Anyway, my Instagram is Van Vincent Go, and then I have Twitter. It's Vandom Vincent. It's also my YouTube account, the Vandom Vincent. It's like random but with a van. So yeah, Vandom Vincent. That's
Okay,
it.
I will link to all of that in the show notes.
Sure.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bai. Thanks for doing this.
Sure. Thank you also for having me.
All right, I'll turn it off, huh?
All right.
I learned a lot with my conversation with Van Gogh. I know when I was growing up, when I was growing up, it was a totally different world, and there's a lot of things that I would take back because we just didn't understand the LGBT community. And hopefully, if you're like me, you didn't understand it, and you listen to this episode, I hope it opened your mind, your heart to some of the things that's happening in that community. And this is a community that has contributed a lot to society in general. So learned a lot from Van. Cool dude. Thank you, Van Gogh, for doing the podcast. Thank you, Cube Gallery. Thank you, Handuro, for sponsoring the podcast. The music from this podcast is Piano March by Audionautics. If you feel that this podcast is important and you want to support it somehow, the best way to do so would be on patreon.com/032. I'll put a link in the show notes. It allows you to monetarily support the podcast, and in return, we'll give you some exclusive content and even some exclusive 032 Conversations merchandise. But if you don't have any cash, you still want to help, just share this episode on social media. The more listeners we get, the more likely we're going to continue doing this show. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'll see you next Tuesday.